Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you about inputs and outputs on the FM3 just to get you started. So we're going to be referring to page 5 in the manual, one of the most important pages to get started. So let's dig in. When you first get your FM3, I think it's super important, even before you get it, to read some things in the manual. In the very beginning, it talks about inputs and outputs. At the very end, it's got frequently asked questions. And then there's some meat in the middle. So if you look in the manual at the table of contents, you'll see a lot of those answers to your questions that you may have. And there's a lot of people every day that ask the same ones, and they're right there in the manual. So just take the time and read some of those. So let's go down to the floor. I'm going to show you how to set the input level for your guitar, and I'm going to show you how to set output in one and 2 for a couple different scenarios. So we're going to go ahead and set our input levels. And in this case, I've got my Telecaster, which has a fairly hot bridge pickup, I think, but other guitars may have a little higher output. So you may need to adjust this and kind of get a good balance. But so we're going to come in here and we're going to look at the LEDs here over on input 1 here, and you can see them right here when I start to play. You see it hit the red a little bit. So we're going to go into setup, I/O, and let's navigate over to the input 1 pad. So you could pad it down or up depending on your output of your pickup. So let's go ahead and keep it at 0 dB. I'm going to go ahead and just use my foot here. So now if you look at input 1, for this guitar, it's not even what they call tickling the red. So you want it to do that every now and then, not where it's clipping. So this guitar is not going to ever get that way. So let's take it back down to 12. Now that you see that orange one starting to go up, let's take it down to 6. Still not tickling that red. When I take it down to 0, hits that red every now and then. If I had a humbucker or something that was really hot, you may have to pad that down a little bit, go up to 6 or whatever. It just depends on your pickups. And this is, the FM3 when it says comes ready to use for the typical guitar with passive pickups. So active pickups could be a little bit louder, but you want to choose the loudest setting when you're adjusting that. So our next thing we want to do is we want to adjust the output levels. We're going to focus first on output 1 up here, and then I'll talk about output 2. So if I hit the navigation right, it'll page down and go to output 1 configuration. So from the factory, output 1 comes configured -10 dBV. And that's okay unless you're connecting it to professional grade equipment operating at a +4 dBu. So I have my studio monitors, so I leave mine at +4. And when I'm at home, I usually keep my output 1 at probably noon, and when I go play live, I typically leave it at noon as well, unless the front of house needs more volume or less. You leave it at +4. You're outputting to front of house. That's considered professional grade equipment. Now, when you get home, you may take output 1 and use it for an FR or something like that, or some other speaker. Maybe too hot for that. You just have to play around. If you leave it at the default -10, you may find yourself having to crank both the output 1 and your FR volume a lot. In a typical scenario, if you're playing live, you're going to be using output 1 to go out to front of house. Now, and then if you're not using in-ears, then you're going to be using some other monitoring situation. So we're not talking 4-cable method, anything like that. So I'm just talking using FR right now. First thing you want to do when you're connecting up something else to output 2, like in this example, FR, you want to come down to output 2, copy, and you want to copy output 1. That way it copies the right signal. So now you're going to get exactly what's coming out of output 1 is going to go into output 2. And then from here, you can set this boost pad to whatever you want. So you can boost the signal or you can pad it down if it's too loud. So output 2, per the manual, unity gain is all the way up. So I would set that all the way up, and then I would come over here and I would see what the signal was that I had and how much room I had on the FR to turn up and down as needed. And then, you could also use this as well, but unity gain is, all the way up for output 2. So you could pad it down or keep it at 0 dB. You just have to play around with your particular equipment. I hope that was helpful. So refer back to this video whenever you want. Obviously, it's on page 5 in the manual. Also, some frequently asked questions are on page 109. And then, like I was saying in the beginning, is look through that table of contents for any of those hot questions that maybe are running through your head. And you'll generally find them in the manual. So get to playing. You guys have a good week. See ya.